Welcome to our final week of dealing with the good news according to Luke. Uh, but we're not finished yet because next week we're going to continue the same journey as it applies to the early Christian movement. Not just the life of Jesus that was dealt with in the book of the Gospel according to Luke, but in the second volume of his writing in the Acts of the Apostles, because I've discovered that the same theme that we've been dealing for 10 weeks, and that is that Jesus was presented by Luke as a person that can be followed without any strings attached. That issue continues in the Acts of the Sent Ones, the Acts of the Apostles, as the identity of the early Christian movement was solidified in the first 30 years after the death of Jesus. But this week we're going to stick with where we've been in the good news according to the Gospel of Luke. Now, why was it important for Luke to present these stories that no one else told about Jesus cutting the many strings? The answer to that, in my opinion, is that Luke wanted to be certain that Gentiles, persons who were not Jews, were welcome to accept the invitation to follow Jesus without becoming Jewish in their lifestyle or in their beliefs. Because Luke presented Jesus without the strings attached, because he was concerned that if you attach a bunch of strings to Jesus, then whoever attaches the strings controls Jesus, like the master pulling the strings of the puppet. And he said, Jesus is not a puppet. There are no strings attached. No added agreements. Jesus was a fresh revelation of God's agape love. Now let's review these 9 strings that were severed. First, the string of old wineskins. Tradition was acknowledged, informative, and cherished, but traditions did not determine the future. New wine, new wineskins. The string of old wineskins was severed. Secondly, the string of the law. For just obedience to the commandments falls short of what it means to be agents of agape love in every life situation. The string, thirdly, of privilege, that faith is for a chosen few, which was contrary to the universal invitation of Jesus to all humankind. The string of privilege was cut. Fourth, the string of living with anxiety and guilt, which results in believers being frozen in the past and fearful of the future. Guilt and anxiety. that prevents a lifestyle of living and serving others. Fifth, the string of prejudice, prejudgment, which uh, provokes division based on human differences, preventing acceptance based on grace. Sixth, the string of belief in a God of judgment, which prevents the experience of God's love. Seventh, the string of garnering wealth for personal happiness, eating, drinking, and being merry, rather than possessing wealth to give, serve, and care. Eighth, the string of superiority, which produces vertical vision of looking down on others, rather than the horizontal vision of face-to-face human relationships. Ninth, the string of creeds, rules, and regulations, which creates a complex system of obedience rather than the demanding but simple commitment of agape love. Wow. When you look at all nine, what a package. There's a lot of more stories about Jesus found only in Luke. For instance, his notice and response to the untouchables of the day, the lepers. But I've chosen these 9 stories just to make the case that Luke offers a new path to follow Jesus. The Jewish community was invited to take the path of being a faithful Jew to become a follower of Jesus. But the Gentiles were invited to follow Jesus as a fresh and new understanding of belief with no strings attached. You see, this understanding for me builds the foundation of faith, believing that God has come to humanity as divine love, agape love, empathetic and sacrificial. Agape love hasn't been created by humankind. It's been experienced by humankind to be shared. On the other hand, religion is the human attempt to get to God, the divine, whereas faith is the human experience of the divine coming to us. Religion is focused on definition. Faith is focused on the mystery, which is beyond human understanding and definition. Let me say that again. You see, faith is a belief that God has come to us. Religion is the attempt of us getting to God and what it takes to get to God. You see, religion is based on definition. Faith is focused on the mystery. Now, as I put this together in these 9 weeks, I simply want to confess that you've been a part of a journey that, in my opinion, is my own personal discovery. I haven't read a book about this. I haven't talked to many people about this. But this is my discovery, and in a sense, it might be autobiographical of who Bruce Blake happens to be. And to say that we must be as clear as the Christian tradition has always attempted to be. It's both and. If a person wants to be a Jew and follow the customs of the Jews and believe that Jesus is the Messiah, that's wonderful. But if a person doesn't care to or is not able to take that journey and just simply wants to follow Jesus as a way to love, that's okay as well. It's a both and approach to the Christian community. Probably said best in John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life, a quality of life, of love, not hate. You see, if we focus on following Jesus, what we add to it is up to us, but really makes no difference, because what we have in common is stronger than what separates us, and that is the willingness to follow Jesus. We're going to continue this series next week with a different book to consider. Luke, Volume 2. And Volume 2 tells the story of how the early movement, they no longer had Jesus to follow. Jesus was dead. But what they had was an issue. Do you have to be a Jew to follow Jesus? And the answer of the book of Acts is nope. There was no strings attached for the early movement that we now call the movement that changed the world. Matthew and Luke presents different pathways to a common commitment to be agents of agape love. Now, for your thought and conversation, which of the 9 strings attached to Jesus have you experienced in your own journey of faith? And in your belief community of faith, does the practice of religion or the experience of faith prevail? Thank you for being a part of us.